Welcome into the Dynasty Mafia podcast. I am your host, Antonio Denisi, and with me as always, Eric Denisi and Keenan Jimajich. How are we tonight, fellas?
Good.
Good. How about yourself, Antonio?
I am fantastic. Thank you. Happy Father's Day to the both of you. For those of you who don't know, fur babies do count. So any pet parents out there, happy Father's Day to you. Keenan, a father of triplets. I don't know how he does it. I've got one of my own and a second on the way, but I can't imagine having triplets. So tell the world a little bit of how you make that happen.
Easy work, you know. They're great though. They made it easy on us. So I give them all the credit, and I give my wife all the credit. So I'll take no credit for
it. Yeah, you're just present, right?
I just pay the bills. You know,
they're a true blessing. Your kids are great, and Eric will be getting some of his own someday as well. No, guys, but the NFL's back. 81 days from today, we have a kickoff. Hopefully, of course, yes, of course. Fingers crossed, toes are crossed, everything is crossed. 81 days from today that we are hopefully kicking that football. But someone that may not be kicking that football is Dalvin Cook, as he's had some talks about holding out, which, like I said, has really gotten me feeling like the season is coming closer and closer, even though training camp is also potentially around the corner. What do you think about Dalvin Cook, Ian?
Well, as you know, he declared that he's not taking part in any team activities until he receives a reasonable contract. What ESPN has reported, we all heard that he feels disrespected by the, in quotations, the Melvin Gordon money. I think he's looking for around $13 million a year. I'm on the Viking side. I don't know about you guys. I just digging into some of his numbers here. His injury numbers are just a concern of mine. Like I said, he had a great year last year. Put up over 1,000 yards, 53 receptions, 519 yards receiving, 13 total touchdowns, but that was all rushing. However, in his games that he's played so far, he's only played 29 out of the 48 games that since he's been drafted. He's only played 29 games out of the 48 possible. So I don't think he's worth $13 million. Honestly, if you can't stay on the field, what's the point of paying the guy $13 million a year? Plus, I'm a big fan of their backup there, Alexander Madison, where they spent a third-round pick for him. So I think the Vikings are playing as smart. See if they could sign him. If not, I would call his bluff. See if he comes back, and then see if you can franchise tag him and try to get a trade him to a team that wants him, I guess.
I hope everyone watched last episode because he was one of my sells.
Yes, he was.
I said that this was potentially going to happen. It was obvious. It's not like it was all me, but it was almost clear as day that it was going to happen. Melvin Gordon, Bell, they did it before him. Like you said, they offered him Melvin Gordon money, which was like $7-8 million a year.
It was 2 years, $16 million. So
that does seem a little bit disrespectful. I definitely understand though. Like you said, I'm on their side. Like, why would you pay that much money? They already have cap issues of their own. They got Alexander Madison, so yeah, I'm not surprised by it at all. But I'm curious though, what happens if this season gets canceled? Does he not accrue that season? So does that mean next year it's just going to happen again?
I think.
Well, what actually happens is, if there has been some speculation with the way the new CBA is, but if I've seen correctly, if he misses any part of training camp, then he can start being fined, of course. But I think if you get fined 5 times, you lose the accrual of that season, which then wouldn't make him a free agent. It would make him a restricted he wouldn't accrue the season, so it would carry over. So he would be tied to the Vikings again.
What if the
for
season
another
got
season.
canceled due to COVID though?
Yeah, I don't think they've got that much, but I would assume everybody would accrue their season and then probably go to free agency.
Yeah, I think the way the wording of each contract is it goes from a certain year to the year when it expires. So I think there'd be a lot of legal issues if the
Okay.
NFL said no, you can't. It doesn't count against the contract. You got to stay with that current team because a lot of players, just because they're not playing, if they're not playing football, it doesn't mean that you know, their age isn't increasing. Father Time is undefeated, and I'm pretty sure those players that are supposed to hit free agency will still want to hit free agency to get paid.
Yeah, the leverage is with Minnesota in all of this, so it really is surprising that Dalvin Cook even went to this point. But I'll be honest, I do think there's a chance that they may come to a deal. I don't think it's going to be 13 million either, but I could see maybe an extension of 2 years that gets him an average of a little over $10 million. Just because he is a very good player, and while he hasn't been on the field all the time when he is fantastic.
And he's only 24. Let's
He's
mention
only
that.
24. Right. So he's definitely got a lot ahead of him. And another player that's got a lot ahead of them is Dak Prescott. There's been a lot of talk this offseason. Everybody knows he was tagged. I believe the date's July 15th. They have to sign that deal if they couldn't reach a long-term extension. But it sounds like Dak is signing that deal tomorrow, as he has announced for Monday, June 22nd. So that's going to be $31.4 million, not the 40-plus million he was hoping to get on an annual basis. But that's going to definitely tie him just for one season only to Dallas, and we'll see what 2021 offseason will bring.
Poor him. Only 31 million next year.
Well, compared to I think, 5 million he was making, one of the lowest paid quarterbacks. Of course, he makes a lot on the endorsements on the side, being the Cowboys quarterback, but he definitely wants to get what he feels he's worth, which isn't that.
Yeah, well,
Yes, it is.
you know me. I said it. I think the Cowboys are doing it right. I said it before. And put them on a prove-it deal. And this is pretty much it. If you put up numbers and you get into the playoffs, I'm sure Jerry Jones not going to be hesitant to pay him that 40+. Or if you win him the Super Bowl, or win a playoff game, I guarantee Jerry Jones signs that check.
Yeah, that's all he needs to do is at least get a playoff win, and I'm sure. I think they may come to some type of agreement eventually. We won't go too far on the rabbit hole today, but there's a chance he could sign the franchise tag in 2021 as well. Hasn't bode well for the teams that they sign with, but in the end, we'll see more to come with that. Speaking of long term, though, Kyle Shanahan is stuck with the 49ers in a good way, of course. Now through 2025, as he had 3 years left on his deal, the 6-year deal he signed in 2017. They have now signed a new 6-year deal that's going to keep him there, as I said, through 2025. Smart move, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I like Shanahan. He has a good system there. He went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo tossing 8 balls in a game. So yeah, I think it's good for all the players there, especially the wide receivers there, the young wide receivers, because those are the guys he picked. He drafted them. They're going to be with him for the next 6 years. So I think it's good for the fantasy options there. George Kittle too as well. And yeah, I like it all around.
My only question is, what was the rush? Was there a rush to sign him to an extension? He was still on a 3-year deal.
Potentially, maybe cap reasons. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know exactly.
I think it was more just so none of them had to worry about it because,
That
he goes
too.
through another season like this, and now you're down to 2 years, and then you're talking about it next year. Now you just, you're both good to go. John Lynch and him have a great thing going on, and that's all I think. I think that they just got together, and they're like, hey, you're worth a little more than we already were paying you, and we want to keep you longer.
Is that how it works? I'm going to go to my boss tomorrow and say I'm worth a little bit more than what they're paying me.
Hey, well, when you go to the Super Bowl and you take the team from where they were in 2017 to getting the Super Bowl 2 seasons later. That was pretty impressive. Uh, Eagles, Brandon Brooks, PFF's number 1 guard last year, tore his Achilles. He's going to miss the season. Do you think that's an impact on Miles Sanders at all, or do you think with that line already being as great as they are, it's just going to bring them down a little bit?
No, Antonio, you tell us if this is an impact on Miles Sanders. You're a big Miles Sanders fan, so let's hear it.
I'm really not too worried about it. Like I just said, I think it's a fantastic line that just lost a good piece, kind of similar to how the Cowboys were for their strong run, even though the line is still really good. But I think they're going to be able to pick up the pieces. Not going to fill that role fully. Like I said, Brandon Brooks is really great. But I think that he's going to be just fine. Just fine. Something that may not be fine, as we mentioned when we started this episode, COVID-19 is really hitting the NFL in full force as teams started coming back. There are rumors that potentially a third of the league, roughly 10 teams, have at least had one player test positive for COVID. We already know of at least I know of Cowboys, the Texans, the Buccaneers, the 49ers, the Broncos. I'm not sure who the other ones are. I don't know if you guys know of any offhand. But not good. Not good for, as I mentioned, 81 days from kickoff. The NFLPA has encouraged any group activities to cease immediately, but they're still planning on training camp starting as on schedule. So hopefully these quarantine or whatever
It's definitely
actions they take
worrisome.
right now. It is. Hopefully they're going to keep players away from each other for the next couple of weeks leading into training camp. But
I really hope they figure something out, like just all go to one city or 2 cities or something like that, to where maybe like a city on the east and a city on the west, and then they just kind of do that. I don't know. I really hope they figure something out.
If they're going to do that,
I really don't think there's definitely not going to be fans.
yeah,
I
agree with that. I don't think there'll be fans, but if they're going to do bubble cities or whatever you want to call them, host cities or whatever, the NFL should do it sooner than later. Look what's going on with the NBA and the NHL right now. Players are already starting to test positive for the virus, and they're still in their team cities. So imagine if they would have done this 2 months ago, said we're all going to this city and everyone moved there, and we'll figure it out as we go. But the longer the players are still out of this bubble, out of the quarantine bubble or whatever you want to call it, the likely they have a chance of getting the virus, I guess.
yeah, but I don't know if you could really do a hub city with the NFL like you could with NBA because of the facilities needed, the rehab, the training. It's just so scary. Like you guys said, it's scary.
Well, the good thing is if there's not going to be any fans, then they don't necessarily need to play in a big stadium. So you could have hub cities and just have a large field with a bunch of football fields on it.
Can you imagine the Super Bowl being played in a field house?
No, that would be played in a stadium.
Just like get down the basement.
But yeah, I don't think the season starts in September, unfortunately. And like Eric said, I don't see it starting or I don't see fans in the stands.
Which means sell your old players now. Your Adam Thielens, Julio Jones,
your Zach Ertz. Don't
Zach
take
Ertz, Travis Kelce.
I am very worrisome of everything, but I am staying optimistic. I'm hoping that everybody can take this as an extreme reality check and they keep themselves isolated or whatever they need to do to get training camp moving. But yeah, I'm just going to keep wishful thinking. I just hope players stay safe, as well as coaches and everybody. That's the biggest thing. Priority is safety. But more to come. I'm sure we're going to hear more and more and more every single week as we get closer. So that's going to lead us to the main segment that we want to talk about today.
Antonio, before we move on, I got something to say.
Yeah.
One more news and notes. Rob Gronkowski is not the 24/7 champion anymore in the WWE. I don't know if you guys saw his fabulous acting skills. It was actually horrendous. I hope he's not looking to be an actor after his NFL career.
What happened?
He got he's filming a TikTok video There's a landscaper who's a wrestler, and the guy that's filming a TikTok video is actually a referee. The landscaper turns around and pins Rob Gronkowski. The guy who's filming the TikTok takes his sweater off, and he has a referee shirt on, and he counts the 1, 2, 3. And Rob Gronkowski is 24/7 WWE championship. So
Nice.
I would, if you're looking for a good laugh and horrible acting, check it out.
Good for him, though. Not many NFL players can say that they are that champion. That's for sure. Add that to your resume, Rob.
Yeah, there you go, Rob.
So, without further ado, we're going to get to our main segment, and it's going to be oldies but goodies. So, what we're going to talk about is the older running backs who used to be great as far as their ADP, specifically in the year of 2016. And who are we talking about? Melvin Gordon, Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, and David Johnson. So 5 years later, and all of them on new teams, how are they looking in 2020, and how are they going to fare? We have seemed to see a trend beginning with NFL teams that, second rounds of contracts for running backs have been few and far between, especially with the Gurley and Zeke now. Hopefully nothing bad happens with Zeke, but we just haven't seen good things with the long-term contracts. And then you have teams like the Titans who franchised Derrick Henry and drafted Darrington Evans, Green Bay drafting A.J. Dillon.
They did say they were working to get a long-term deal done with Derrick Henry, so that's at least good that they came out and said that.
Yeah, they have a couple weeks left, so hopefully they can do that. Definitely tough when you can't see each other, I'd imagine. Yeah. So it's definitely been intriguing. So something that we kind of wanted to dive into. So we're going to start with Le'Veon Bell. His dynasty ADP in 2016, and this is position specific, so obviously for running backs, he was number 4. And now in 2020, he is number 25. So he did finish 21st last year in non-PPR and 16th in PPR. Which one of you want to get us started off with Le'Veon Bell?
Go ahead, Eric. Why don't you get us started?
Yeah. Excuse me. I think running back, you said 25 it was. That
21 in non-PPR, 16th in PPR.
Yeah, that's pretty good for me. I would love him to have him as is this Dynasty Startups?
Yeah, this was Dynasty Startup. So he's 25th now for running back, and he was 4th in 2016.
Yeah, he's 25th. Yeah. So you're getting him as your RB3. You're not going to have much usage on him probably this year, and then maybe a year after, depending on what happens there. And I doubt he's going to be a Jet after this year. So we'll see where he goes. But that's pretty good price, I'd say. I'd definitely draft him there. You're going to get probably really similar year to last year, which is going to be pretty good still. But like I said, long term, he's not going to be much. You're really only looking at this year, maybe another year after.
I think he has a better year than last year. I'm going to have to disagree there. Just because what the Jets did in the offseason, adding 7 offensive linemen. Last year, their offensive line was absolutely one of the worst, I think, in history almost. Their offensive line, no offensive line has opened up with fewer yards before contact besides the Jets. Also, Bell was contacted behind the line of scrimmage of 58% of the time, which was the second highest in the league. And 28% of the carries were stuffed for 0 gain or less, which was second highest in the league. So I think you're going to see an improvement. I don't think you're going to see a drastic improvement in Bell. But like you said, Eric, as a third option on your fantasy team, I think he still has a couple years in him, and I think he's going to have a better year than last year. The only thing that scares me is Gase. Does Gase not want to give him the ball?
Well, he definitely acts like he doesn't want to, but he still had over 300 touches last year. And now that they brought in Frank Gore, I do see those touches going down, but I definitely see more than 250. So I think we're all in agreement here that he is a good draft pick. Like you said, Keenan, I do think he may be there past next season. They do have a chance to get out. I think it's only $4 million a dead cap after next season. But yeah, Gase doesn't like him. I don't know what his deal is, and that line sucked. He was used to a fantastic line in Pittsburgh, so the crappy 3.2 yards per carry that he had, it just didn't cut it.
Yeah.
But an interesting thing here, he had 66 catches, so he had 66 catches and finished 16th in PPR. That just shows you how bad of a season he did. And they didn't have Darnold. That offense was horrible. They've added good pieces. They improved the offensive line. He should definitely improve. But the thing was, the last 5 years out of the running backs who've had more than 64 catches, five of them have finished outside of the top 12 in PPR, and all of them were third down backs whose specialty was just catching the ball. None of them were full-time backs as he was. So I don't think that's going to happen again. I think he's going to get better. And they're going to have a really good season, I think, for the offense comparatively to how 2019 was.
Are you scared of their schedule at all? They do have a tough schedule. They play obviously New England and Buffalo twice, both very good defenses. Miami is an improving team. They play the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Rams, all really good, run defenses. Does that scare you at all?
It does and it doesn't because they played them last year too, and I feel like this was Le'Veon Bell's floor that we saw. He had 245 carries for 789 yards and only 3 touchdowns. Can he really, really do much worse than that? I mean, maybe it's a loaded question, but I don't see that being as negative. So that's why I do feel like he can be a bit more efficient now. And I think that they had a tough schedule last year too, with facing their division teams, and I think he's going to get some similar work.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
It's a fair question.
Yeah, I just looked at their schedule and a couple teams popped right off the schedule.
I mean, he definitely could get stuffed again on every single play, and he could not get many touchdowns, and Gase could hate him, and Frank Gore could be getting the ball now, 12 to 15 times a game. So I could see a world where
I don't think Gore is going to get that much work, but
I don't think he will either. But
if anything, Gore's going to take away from the goal line, I would assume.
Dude, Gore's not good there. Gore is not good there.
He was with Gase in Miami, Frank Gore, and Frank Gore did well there. I mean, I know that was age 34, but now he's 37. But it's just the fact that there is a chance, at least especially in the
last year in Buffalo, he had 11 carries inside the 5, and he only got 1 touchdown.
Yeah, well, when you run it up the middle, 10 out of those 11 times.
Yeah, definitely some inefficiency, and I think we'll move on from Le'Veon Bell, but let's get to the big ticket here. Our 2016 ADP number 1 running back, Mr. Todd Gurley himself, now current running back for the Atlanta Falcons. I think we all know the story with that coming from the LA Rams. Now in 2020, his ADP is number 20. Last season, he finished 11th in non-PPR, and he was 14th in PPR, most of that due to his heavy touchdown ability. So, Eric, let's talk a little bit about Todd Gurley and how you think he may fare with Atlanta.
So I definitely think he's going to have a really good 2020 season. Long-term worries me just because the 1-year contract. He had the knee issues, so we'll see how that goes. But I think you're going to be looking at double-digit touchdowns with him potentially in the 60 reception range. It could happen if you look at Devonta Freeman's numbers. One of his best years, he had 70 targets for 59 receptions. So I could see something like that for Gurley potentially. Obviously, it all depends on his health and how he's looking. But But I think it's going to be a good year this year. Their offensive line is hopefully going to be healthy, ready to go. He's not going to be looking at stacked boxes at all. Obviously, we all know that. Um, so yeah, for this year, he's going to be fantastic. He's good to go. You're gonna get him as your RB2, and I'm happy with that. But long term, I am worried about him.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Eric. Before the NFL draft happened, I was in trying to sell Todd Gurley, trying to get as much as I can for him, and wasn't getting what I thought Todd Gurley was worth. So now that we're this far in the season, in the off season, my whole strategy has changed. I'm hoping that Todd Gurley has an amazing year, so then I could trade him next year. Last year,
That's providing he resigns with Atlanta though too.
yeah,
But I mean,
but
he could sign somewhere else.
yeah, if
But
he signs somewhere else, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, Todd Gurley's back to being Todd Gurley," that's
yeah,
gonna help, in trade discussions. I'm big on him this year just because you already mentioned it. He signed a 1-year contract. Atlanta has no commitment to him after this year. They're gonna use Todd Gurley. They're gonna beat Todd Gurley up. They're gonna try to get everything out of Todd Gurley that they possibly can. Last year, they didn't run the ball much. In fact, they were the fewest run. They ran the fewest plays in a game last season.
rush plays.
Yeah, rush plays.
Yeah.
Excuse me, rushing plays. I mean, it's not a big surprise after you look at the box score and you saw Atlanta fell behind a lot, so they were trying to catch up. So I don't. Hopefully, the defense, is able to become a good defense where they're able to keep their team in the game. But the offensive line was shaky at times. Devontae Freeman, like you said, was not at par last year. So everything has to fit together here. The offensive line needs to be good. The defense needs to be good. And then, obviously Todd Gurley's health needs to be healthy for him to have a good season. But I'm all in on him right now. It's just strategy at this point for me. I'm hoping that all the puzzle pieces fit together for Atlanta. And if they do, I think Todd Gurley has a great year.
Yeah, let me just hit on exactly what you guys were talking about. 184 attempts, 70 targets, 59 catches. Total of just over 1,050 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's exactly what Devonta Freeman did last year. Like you guys were saying, he finished as running back 20 in PPR. With how much more efficient Todd Gurley is just in general, even if he is banged up, he's better than Devonta Freeman. And like you said, he's not going to see stack boxes. That offense is going to go vertical. I really do think he's going to probably deliver an RB1, maybe even top 10 potential, because I do think he's going to get a lot of red zone carries, even though it's not something that he may be super efficient with. But we know that Atlanta's extremely frustrating with Julio in the red zone because they do run the ball a bit. And I think they're going to continue to do that with Todd Gurley, whom, again, as you guys have mentioned, they have no commitment to besides 1 year. So if Devonta Freeman can get 250 touches, I don't see why Todd Gurley can't do that. Yeah. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention. Sorry. So Atlanta's red zone, their touchdown percentage ranks since 2016 is 8th, 23rd, 10th, and 25th. So we know how Matt Ryan is with his leap years of every other year doing well. This is their second year with Dirk Cutter, second rotation with Dirk Cutter that Matt Ryan's had him. It's going to be a good year for Atlanta. I really think it will be.
I definitely agree. I'm high on Atlanta. And we always, I think, Antonio, you and I talked about Matt Ryan, how he has an off year and then the next year he blows up. So I think this is the year that Atlanta puts it all together, hopefully, since they haven't since that Super Bowl run.
Yeah, people keep chalking it up to the way their schedule was the second half last year when they finished 6-2 in the last 8 games, or was it even 7-1 maybe? But I also think it attributed to the fact that Dirk Cutter was there, and normally Matt Ryan gets in his second season, he's better, but I think Dirk Cutter being there, and it was an offense he was familiar with, the offense just started to click
Yeah.
as a whole, especially not a coincidence that they got rid of Mohamed Sanu and um, Austin Hooper got injured, and now they're both gone.
Did they
So
draft a wide receiver this year?
I think they might have, but not someone that would. I think Russell Gage, who they've had as their third wide receiver, and then obviously they got Hayden Hurst. So
Yeah.
um, it'll be interesting to
They
see
got
what.
Laquan Treadwell too.
Oh yeah, they grabbed LeBron Treadwell. Oh yeah, all the rumors or all the talks that have been going around that they may have every position on the offense.
Yeah,
All
the
first
first round
first
pick.
round picks. Yeah,
Yeah.
not that means much these days.
Uh,
So let's move on from Todd Gurley if we've got nothing else.
No,
yeah.
I'm just looking at their draft picks. They definitely they definitely ignored the offensive side of the ball, and we're looking to fix that defense. So it might be in favor of Todd Gurley as well if their defense holds them in games and they don't have to pass the ball so many times. They could run the ball late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that is a good point. They have been extremely unlucky the last couple of years with their defense getting injured, especially after their Super Bowl run. All right, let's move on. So the third running back we want to talk about is Melvin Gordon, the new running back for the Denver Broncos. So his ADP wasn't too crazy in 2016. It was actually number 18th, and everybody is probably sitting there like, oh, wow. But he was drafted in 2015. So coming off his rookie season where he had no touchdowns, he then came in and went hog wild with 10 touchdowns on the ground. So in 2020, he is drafted as current RB 23. So Keenan, why don't you talk about Melvin Gordon?
When we talked about these four guys a couple weeks ago, I don't know what it is with me this offseason. I feel like I'm changing my mind a lot, but I had Melvin Gordon as my number one. I moved Todd Gurley as my number one, and now I got Melvin Gordon as my number two. I just don't know how this offense is going to click. Are they going to throw the ball? Are they going to run the ball? There's so many question marks. Especially at quarterback as well, which can be a benefit. It could benefit Melvin Gordon with a rookie quarterback running an offense there. But they're who's their coach? Vic Fangio, is that their coach or is that their offense coordinator?
Pat Shermer is the OC, isn't
Yeah, Fangio's the head coach.
Fangio's the head coach, but he did say he wants to establish a physical clock killing style on offense. I don't know if Melvin Gordon fits that role. Would you guys agree or disagree? I feel like Melvin Gordon's more of a wide receiver / running back type of player.
Well, I mean, if they want to give him a workload, he's shown that he's been able to do that before. He's been able to be a 20 touch, per game back, and Shermer does love to target the running back. So if Denver's last 5 games, they go 4-1 with Locke, and he really didn't throw the ball that much. He only threw it, I think, just over 30 times a game. So maybe that getting Gordon and having Lindsey, they do want to run the ball a lot.
I just don't. I don't know. I just feel like I would trust Melvin Gordon more as a pass catching back than a between the tackles trying to kill the clock back.
He's going to be better than Phillip Lindsay. I mean, he's by far the best running back on that team. Lindsey's not going to disappear though. I think you're going to see Royce Freeman more phase out of this offense. I know I'm upset about it, but
yeah,
it's going to happen.
Someone's got to get let go or moved somehow from there.
I'm hoping Royce gets traded out. But we'll see. He's going to get phased out. Lindsey's not going to be going anywhere. He's produced for them. They're not just going to let him disappear. But I definitely like Melvin Gordon for at least the next 2 years. But yeah, he's not going to be what is he ADP 23. I mean, yeah, that's he's getting up there in age. That's a good price, I'd say. It's nothing, there's a lot of good young guys coming in, and And yeah, I think he's gonna be one of those lower end RB2s most likely, maybe mid range RB2. So that's a pretty good price.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead, Antonio.
he was gonna say he is the youngest of these four. He is only 27.
But
If
that's
you
still
got him in
getting
the
up
fourth
there
year.
for a running back.
It is. It is getting up there, and he has had a quote unquote injury history. But he has had 40 catches every single year of his career. I do think he's going to continue that. I think Shermer, as I said, he's going to want to get Melvin Gordon the ball. I think they brought him in because they want to give him the ball. I think that he's going to help spell Drew Lock a bit. I think that's why they wanted to get a veteran, and they didn't want to keep Lindsey there because they wanted someone who can get in there and knows how to pass block, knows how to help make Drew Lock feel a lot better and a lot more comfortable if he just dumps the ball off, that he can go and do something with it. Again, nothing against Lindsey and Freeman, but just the draft caliber. Freeman being Lindsey being undrafted. They brought Gordon in for a reason. So I think that it's going to run through Melvin Gordon. I do think, as I mentioned with Gurley, that Gordon has a chance to maybe finish in the back end of an RB1, just because he could be looking to get another 250 touches. But I'm really excited actually for where Melvin Gordon landed. Man, I'm struggling tonight, guys. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Doesn't Shermer like to feature one running back usually as well? Just
He does.
looking at his past. I mean, God forbid if Gordon loses the job to Lindsey in training camp, his stock's gonna go, because we don't even know who their starter is. That's where my concern is right now.
Follow the money.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I don't even know if Lindsey's making over $1 million. Oh, actually, I lied. I think they gave him a little bump.
Lindsey's gonna fight for the starting job. He's coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's not just gonna lay down and be like, oh, here you go, Gordon, take the job. Kind of like what happened in San Diego / LA with Eckler there. So.
Yeah, I know it's unpopular, but I almost would have thought that Lindsey be the odd man out when they got Melvin Gordon, and that Freeman maybe would help spell Gordon on third downs.
Yeah,
if maybe Gordon wasn't the guy to get the ball,
That's where I was going at when we first started talking about him. I just don't like if they're looking for Melvin Gordon to be that guy to run the ball in between the tackles. They got the wrong guy. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think that's going to wrap up. Actually, no, you know what? I want to know, what would you trade? What would you offer somebody? Let's say the Melvin Gordon owner right now, pick wise for Melvin Gordon.
Well, I'm going to stay out of this one because I had Melvin Gordon in a league with both of you, so I'll let you guys talk about this, and I'll be all ears.
Well, let's say a regular pick, a non super flex pick, Eric. What would you take a first round pick for or would you give a first round pick for Melvin Gordon?
Me personally, it's tough. I guess it depends. If I'm like a really strong contender and I definitely need like a running back too, or a little bit more depth at running back, I'd potentially give a late first. But I love this draft class coming out, so I'd rather take my chances and hope like a Justin Jefferson or someone falls in the late first, or even Cam Akers I've seen going 7th, 8th, 9th pick. I'd rather take one of those guys over him, but yeah, if I'm a strong contender though, I need a running back, I definitely consider it, but it would definitely have to be a late first.
If he was still in LA, Antonio, I would definitely give up a first for him just because of his numbers that he used to put up in LA. I don't know where this offense is going. That's my thing. They drafted a couple wide receivers. Do they believe in Drew Lock that much, or is he going to be a good quarterback? And if he is he gonna hurt Melvin Gordon's value? Is there enough footballs to go around with that offense?
Well, that's the thing. If Drew Lock isn't throwing the ball a lot, that means hopefully Melvin Gordon's getting it. But I also think that with Judy, with Cortland Sutton, with Noah Fant, with Hamler, that they have so much speed that they will be able to stretch the field, which is going to open it up for Melvin Gordon, especially if Drew Lock checks it down.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I'll be honest, out of every person on the Denver offense, Melvin Gordon's the one I do feel most confident about being able to carve out and keep that role. Like, I'm not confident Fant's going to break out beyond what he did last year because of targets. I don't know if Sutton can do better than he did last year, which was still a good year. And then, you have to add Judy to that. So it's definitely going to be interesting for me, but I'll be honest, if I'd be throwing out probably mid-seconds all day, hoping they'd get accepted.
Yeah.
I probably – any other year, of course, there's a lot of talent coming out this year, as there has been in recent years. But most years I probably would throw out a late first if I could still get 2 years of good production out of Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, I think a late first is a fair offer. It all depends
You're
on
right. This year be tough. You're right, though. So I think let's move on to our final running back, the RB3 from 2016, and that will be David Johnson, the current running back for the Houston Texans, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals. Now has an ADP of 31 here in 2020. Very interesting situation how he got to Houston. He traded part of the DeAndre Hopkins deal that really kind of left everybody scratching their head on what Bill O'Brien is looking to do with that offense. But maybe David Johnson's the answer to him.
Yeah, I think what ADP 31, that's pretty good. That's pretty good value right there because I really think he can come in, he can get 250 carries, maybe 40, 45 catches, over 1,000 yards total, probably add in at
11.
least 8 touchdowns. Yeah, more. I'm potentially double digit. He's another one though. Long term, obviously, he's not going to be the best option. He's already clearly slowing down, and maybe another year or two of good production. But we'll see. I still have hope out for him because I know a back injury it takes a long time to heal, and everyone's knocking him saying he looked terrible after the injury last year. Well, obviously because they legitimately back injuries take months to heal sometimes and to be back to where you're normally at. So I'm not going to knock him for that. We'll see what he can do this year. He's going to be in maybe a good offense. We'll see, but he has Deshaun Watson there. They got Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller. So that they, as long as they stay healthy, that they could open up the offense for him. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
I think we're going to see. I don't know if we're going to see David Johnson a bit old, but I think we're going to see. I think David Johnson's going to have a pretty solid year, honestly. Carlos Hyde isn't there anymore. He's in Seattle. I think he was their starter. I don't know who their starter was. I think they kind of split carries between Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde, but Carlos Hyde Duke Johnson, excuse me, has only topped 100 carries just once in his career. So I think David Johnson was brought in there to be the starter, and I think he's going to get a lot of carries, especially with the departure of Hopkins. That's 120 targets, I believe, 150 targets Hopkins had last year. Now, where are those 150 targets going to go? They're not just going to go to Will Fuller, and someone's got to touch the ball on those 150 carries, 150 targets that Hopkins got last year for Texans. So I think they're going to feature David Johnson a lot, and I think David Johnson's going to be Deshaun Watson's best friend.
Yeah, I haven't been able to figure it out just yet of what I think of David Johnson. I think that I agree that they are going to give him the football. I think that they have to give him the football with what they're paying him and the capital they just did to acquire him. And I think that this offense is meant to be speedy and they're going to stretch the field. Will Fuller is going to run deep. Brandon Cooks is fast. Kiki Kuti will probably be cut, but I'm blanking on some other wide receiver at the moment. But Kenny Stills, sorry. So I think that they're going to stretch the field, and that's going to leave David Johnson able to line up in the slot a lot, or even just in general getting the football. I think he's going to free him up. That line's definitely better than what Arizona was. And just in the short 8 games he had with them, he already had 30 catches. Which is my only worry actually for him, is that in the whole time Bill O'Brien's been the coach there, what are we going on, season 6 now? 5 or 6, Duke Johnson has had the most catches in a season, which is only 44. So Eric thinking he's going to get potentially, 250, 300 touches. I'm hoping he can get to 50 catches. I really think he will. I think they are going to.
I think more 40, 45 is a good, estimate.
Is that where you have him? I mean, that's where it would look to go based on O'Brien's history, but I'm thinking they're going to cater the offense to him a little more. I think he's going to become Deshaun Watson's new best friend.
And you see what Carlos Hyde did there last year. Like,
right,
David Johnson is going to be better than him.
I
think so.
With David Johnson, though, he has a history of lining up more than the other 3 guys. I feel lining up as a wide receiver also.
Absolutely.
So I think, like I said earlier, I think the targets that Hopkins got last year, the 150, he's gonna get the ball. I don't know if it's gonna be running, rushing, or receiving, but he's definitely gonna get the ball. So I think where we have him listed, I think he's a good buy, and I would take my chances on him for sure. And I in Dynasty, I definitely took my chances by trading for him couple months ago. I think I gave up Adam Thielen for him, so we'll see how that works out for me.
Yeah, I don't think that I can see 30 other running backs that I would say are better than David Johnson right now.
And definitely not 30 that have as good of opportunity as he does.
Right. I mean, maybe ADP of 20, 21, more in the range of where, Bell and Gordon and those guys are going, because like you said, the opportunity. So
and I'm not worried about Duke Johnson there either. I mean, Duke Johnson he's going to be what he is. His whole career he's been the same thing. He's not going to be a threat. Especially, he's not going to be a threat carry wise. He's only going to be a threat receiving wise. But I think David Johnson is going to be better, and he's going to be the majority target share for running backs there.
Well, when you give up Hopkins for David Johnson, he's there. You better feature David Johnson. That's all I ask. I can't imagine them coming out of training camp and announcing a Duke Johnson starter. Can you imagine that? I would love to be a Texans and see the Texans fans freak out for a little bit there.
Even more than they just did.
Yeah.
So that wraps up those 4 that we want to talk about, but there's a couple questions that I do want to ask. Let's start with, which of these situations interest you the most? Keenan.
For me, like I said earlier, I think Todd Gurley really interests me the most. Dynasty-wise, I think if he has a great year, you're going to be able to cash in next year. Someone's going to overpay. And in redraft, I think in redraft leagues, I think you won't have to reach for him. I think you're going to be able to potentially get an RB1 late in the draft.
Yeah, I agree. Todd Gurley is my favorite situation here as well. I think he's the only one that really has – I think he's the only one out of this group that truly has a potential to be a top 10 running back, at least for 2020.
Mine's actually going to be Melvin Gordon, mostly off of what you said.
It's got to be different.
Like you said, we just don't know what the team's going to look like. But as I said, I am confident. I think that Melvin Gordon is how that offense is going to run. I think that there was a few seasons in LA where he had 300 touches. I do think there's a good chance that Melvin Gordon is going to get close to 300 touches this year. And also being the youngest, he's got the best shot for fighting for another contract after 2 years from now. So I'm sure he's going to want to perform well. There's a lot of hype around that offense. So I'm really interested to see what Melvin Gordon can do. Happy to see what Gurley does too, but Melvin's my guy there. Next question: who do you think gets the most carries? Not touches, carries. Eric.
Carries, probably Bell. I'd say Bell or David Johnson. But yeah, I'll go Bell. Like you guys said before, like Keenan said, he's potentially going to get more work. I think it'll be more of a similar workload. And even if he gets a similar workload to last year, then he's easily most likely going to get the most carries out of this group.
I'm going to go with David Johnson. Like I said earlier, I think they're going to feature him. I really do. I don't see I don't see anyone else they could feature on that offense right now. And Bill O'Brien's going to want to tell everyone, hey, I was right to trade for this guy.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll put his money where his mouth is. But I got Le'Veon Bell as well. I think that they have to give him the ball. I think even with Gore coming there, it's really not going to do much worry to him. So yeah, Le'Veon Bell's looking to get the most carries there. So who finishes with the most catches then?
For me, I'm going to go with Melvin Gordon. I don't know. I don't know why, honestly. I just think with Drew Lock, I think you mentioned Antonio. He might be his best friend. They're going to stretch the field there with all that wide receiver talent, and Drew Lock's going to want to dump it down a lot when times get tough in that pocket. So I'm going to go with Melvin Gordon.
Wow, changing it up over there. I like it.
I don't know why. I cannot just give up on Melvin Gordon. I'm hoping he doesn't, because in our Western New York Dynasty League, I've come close to winning a championship. And I think on paper I have the best team, and I need him this year. So fingers crossed.
I think for Gordon to get number one out of this group, though, is going to be tough. Because I do think Bell's getting over 60. Todd Gurley's going to be potentially getting close, maybe getting over 60. And I like I said, I think Gordon's going to be more in the 40, 45, maybe even up to 50 range. But I think it's going to be real tough for him to get into the 60s. So I do think it's going to be Bell. But I think Todd Gurley's going to push him for this one.
Yeah, I have Todd Gurley as well. I think Bell and Gurley will both be in the 60s again. Bell being in the 60s. But, yeah, it's going to be close between them. I think all of them have a really good shot at getting over 50 as well together. So, final question, who does the best? Out of the four, who is the best? Who finishes the best in 2020?
Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley.
I think the touchdowns are going to push him over the edge.
I want to see what Anthony was going to say.
I think that the touchdowns for Todd Gurley are going to put him over too. It's between him and Melvin Gordon for me.
Yeah, like I said, I think they're going to use him 1-year contract. They don't have no commitment to him, and with them not being able to run the ball at all last year, I think they're going to try to establish that run game.
All right, so that's going to end it for the oldies but goodies, but we do still kind of want to talk about some of the oldies. So keeping it with that theme, where we want to talk about a couple of teams that have some running back, I guess, question marks, where we really don't know who the starters are going to be. And majority of them do tend to be on the more mature age side. So let's start this one off with Raheem Mostert, who's 28, and Tevin Coleman, who's 27, running backs for the San Francisco 49ers. How do you think this one's going to play out?
50-50. I think both of them are just equally as good. And I think with Kyle Shanahan, oh my God, running that offense, I think he likes to spread the ball around. I think they're going to split carries, and they're going to split touches pretty much.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this backfield. Plus, for some odd reason, they still have Jerick McKinnon there, and I just,
I drafted him late. One of the
oh
draft.
yeah,
I
yeah. Just a lot of people are real hyped up on Raheem Mostert, but the guy's 28 and he didn't really pop until now. And I don't know. I think it's just a really good year for Mostert that he had. And going into this year, I think it's going to be a split backfield for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly my thought on Mostert. I don't hate the man at all. Great story, but you've been with the team for 5 seasons now. Shanahan's seen you the last few years. All of a sudden, you get your shot. And I do think Coleman's going to be the one that's going to get more carries in the end, but no, not by much. He'll probably get 45, 50%. You'll see Mostert get 30, 35, and then third running back will come in with probably, 15 or 20. But, yeah,
just
it's
don't,
going to be a little muddled.
I just don't see them changing their style really because Shanahan has given Mostert the ball 171 times in 25 games. That's a little under 7 carries. Like I just don't see them changing that.
Yeah, Tevin Coleman started out the first 8 games with a lot of touches and then switched over to Mostert. So I think it's just going to be the hot hand approach. I
Yeah, it's
really
gonna be the
do.
New England approach.
Yeah.
Don't stay away from this backfield.
Yeah, stay away from it. But if you do have to get somebody, I prefer Coleman. Now, they did get rid of Matt Burita, who moved his way over to Miami. And Miami now has themselves with a little bit of a muddled backfield. I'm not saying it's one we're looking to go out there and get these guys, but for people in those situations, there's Jordan Howard and Matt Burita, both 25. So not necessarily oldies, but Jordan Howard's quietly been in the league going on his 5th year now, and this is now his third team. So someone who's gotten 1,000 yards almost every year and now is competing with Breida, who showed some flashes. How do you think that backfield might play out?
Go ahead.
I like Jordan Howard a lot for this year. I'm you can get him as your fourth running back, and I really do think there's a legitimate chance that he can get 1,000 yards and 8 to 10 touchdowns. Um, just before the NFL draft, everyone was excited about what rookie was going to be drafted there, who was going to be the running back in Miami. Um, and they didn't take anybody. They traded for Breida. They added Jordan Howard. We all know Breida's going to get hurt, and it's going to be the Jordan Howard show there. At least for this year, he's going to be a good option.
Yeah, I don't think Burrito's going to get hurt. I don't think he has a chance to compete with Jordan Howard. Since Jordan
Yeah.
Howard has entered the league, he has the third most rushing yards and seventh most rushing touchdowns since he entered the league in 2016. He's also one of 5 players to rush for at least 6 touchdowns in the last 4 seasons. I mean, the guy it's production. My guess is that Ryan Fitzpatrick is not going to lead this team in rushing this year like he did last year. So I think Jordan Howard is definitely going to be the guy.
He's still young. He's pretty fresh too. I mean,
I don't get why he has a bad rep. And
it's the receiving. That's why.
yeah, I'm that guy that's also been like, oh, Jordan Howard, who cares? Move on to the next guy. But after looking at his numbers, hey, if you can get him as your third, fourth running back, hey, sign me up.
Yeah, and right now his ADP's in the 30s. I mean, you can
Yeah.
easily get him as your fourth,
And
sometimes potentially fifth running back, and he's going to be great depth to have.
I mean, when you're that late in the draft, I think you're just looking for production, and Jordan Howard's middle name is his production. I think if he lands as your fourth running back and you have injuries, I think you're confident just to plug him in and still continue on with your season until your running backs 1, 2, or 3 come back.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Jordan Howard can definitely be a value, especially with that ADP. There is a fear, though, that maybe Breida can take over, or maybe there is a hot hand approach like New England runs, seeing as how their head coach is an ex-Patriots coach. Who knows if that's how he wants to run it now that he's got a couple more running backs.
I could definitely see a hot hand approach. I just don't think Breida can handle the large workload. And like I said, I just don't think he's as good as a runner as Jordan Howard is. But yeah, we'll see
Yeah,
what happens.
absolutely. Brian Flores, the head coach. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. I do think Jordan Howard will be the guy for them. I just can see a world with Breida coming in, but yeah, not too much really needing to talk about with Miami. Much more than that. So I just want to talk a little bit more about Mark Ingram. He's going to be 31. DeAndre Swift just got drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. They have
J.K.
Gus
Dobbins.
Edwards, or sorry, J.K. Dobbins. Thank you. They have Gus Edwards. They have Justice Hill. Maybe someone will be removed. Do you think it's the Mark Ingram show for 2020?
Absolutely not. If you have any stock in Mark Ingram, you better try to sell it and try to get what you can, because I think he slowly, his career is coming to an end slowly, especially with that young backfield. I think by, I don't know, week 6, J.K. Dobbins is getting most of the carries with Gus Edwards has.
I think a lot of it's going to depend on how training camp goes. If there is training camp, how all that's going to play out, and I think if there is minimal training camp and everything, it's going to be more halfway towards the end of the season until J.K. Dobbins really starts taking over. But if they get a full training camp in, full preseason, everything, I could definitely see it, like you said, week 6 or a little bit earlier on. But J.K. Dobbins is a fantastic running back, and Mark Ingram's, he's older, man. He's gonna be done.
Didn't we talk about Gus Edwards? How many touches he's had? He's had a lot over the years, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think
It's
it
only
was
been 2 years.
the stat you were mentioning, Eric, was that he's had the highest yards per carry in
Yeah, he was
the last
drafted,
3 years.
2 years he's been in the league.
Years.
Yeah, he's had the highest yards per carry, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely efficient. So it just shows, though, maybe that's also Baltimore's offense.
But again,
It-
he's nothing compared to J.K. Dobbins either.
Yeah. The only
right.
way
I don't view Edwards as a threat, but I definitely like him as a handcuff if you have J.K. Dobbins or Ingram.
Yeah, I was going to say the only way I draft Mark Ingram or Gus Edwards is if I have J.K. Dobbins, just so I could get the handcuff. I really don't think Ingram or Edwards are going to be a big factor once Dobbins established himself with that offense.
Yeah, a lot of people in the industry seem to think it's going to be Mark Ingram for a lot of 2020 and then Dobbins for 21. And I don't know. I know that the three of us kind
It
of
could,
think.
if there's not, like I said, if there's not really much of a training camp or preseasons is canceled or anything like that, it's very likely that Ingram's it's gonna be the Ingram show at least for the first half of the year. But it
Yeah.
also depends. It's possible he loses a step, and he was already declining. Like I see, he's over 30 years old. So
Yeah, or maybe Dobbins just is he just flashes right away. We'll
that too.
definitely.
I hope so. I love J.K. Dobbins. So
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
I could definitely see it. I can see him taking over right away. To be honest with you, he's that good.
Um, one more. I wouldn't want to say muddle backfield because the incumbent did already mention that they are not part of the starting role, and that would be Carlos Hyde, who will be turning 30 this year, signed by Seattle. How much do you think he might take away from Chris Carson with Rashad Penny's torn ACL keeping him out?
I don't think he takes away anything from Chris Carson. I think Carlos Hyde is more of a insurance blanket, I guess. If Chris Carson does go down, they have that veteran running back to step in. Look at all the injuries that they had last year after Penny and Carson went down. They went down to call in Marshawn Lynch to be their starter was it a playoff game or was it end of the season?
End of the season, yeah.
Yeah, and they needed to win or something. I just think this is more of an insurance blanket. And like you said, Penny's on the pup list. But they even said in I think the Seattle Times, whatever newspapers over there, that Carson is the primary back. So I don't think Hyde does bring any value to your fantasy lineup unless Carson is down. So this is more of a draft Carson, get Hyde as your handcuff.
Yeah, that or also if Carson decides to start fumbling again. Yeah, it's all insurance, though. It's going to be the Carson show until he either not until, but if he gets hurt or ends up, having a little span where he likes to drop the football. So
I don't think the fumbling issue has it hasn't stopped him from giving the ball to Carson in the past. I don't think it will if it can.
no, it will though for the game that it happens though. He's been taken out of games,
Yeah.
so I mean, you could see that happen if he fumbles early once or twice in the game. Could be the Carlos Hyde show for that game. But yeah, I'm not super worried about it though. Like I said, I definitely agree. It's more insurance. They needed someone there with Penny hurt still, and although I do like some DJ Dallas, so I'd actually probably be more worried about DJ Dallas than I would Carlos Hyde.
And Travis Homer was I think they drafted him last year too. So
Yeah.
I think they have a couple young backs there. I just stick with Carson. I wouldn't worry about with anyone else.
Yeah, I'll just agree with everything you guys just said. Carson's a guy. The final person, Devonta Freeman, 28 years old, is a free agent right now, but has been in talks with Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. Not positive a couple other places, but where do you think ultimately he's going to go, and where he does land? Let's say if Philly or Tampa, what kind of a role will he play?
I really hope he goes to neither of them. But even if he does, I don't think it'll be a huge role. He clearly took a big step back. He's not the same guy he used to be. And if he goes to Philly, I really don't even think he'll be able to compete with Boston Scott with how Scott did there last year. Obviously not going to compete with Miles Sanders at all. And then even if he goes to Tampa Bay, I like both Vaughn and Ronald Jones over him. So I really don't know where he's going to go. I don't think he's going to get the contract that he thinks he's going to get, and who knows? He could potentially sit out like he said he would. But I want nothing to do with him.
Antonio, who's the Philadelphia Eagles backup running back? Since you're such a big
Boston Scott.
Did you mention that? I'm sorry, I missed that. But
Correct.
I'm just looking at the cap space for each team right now. Like you said, Eric, that he's not going to get the deal that he wants, so that's why he's still a free agent. If there was a deal even close to what he wanted, he would have signed it. I think at this time. But I think Philly is probably the best option. I think that he can beat out Scott. I think Freeman has some talent still. I've drafted him in a couple leagues late, just late. What I think 28th round, 29th round out of 30. Just took him just to put him on my team just in case. And I think he can end up in Philly because of the cap space that they have. And I don't think they would care if they gave him $3 to $4 million for next season.
I think he wants more than that. I think he was offered $4 million.
Not going to get that.
He was offered $4 million, and he turned it down. And he
He's
said
not
he might sit out if he doesn't get more.
I guess he's sitting out then. I guess okay.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I want. He's already what you said, 28. I don't really want anything to do with him.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about him wherever he lands either. So would you add him if he's a free agent in your dynasty league?
I'd add him, yeah. Why not? You always need running backs.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely add him just because there's going to be injuries, especially with this whole COVID thing going on as well. We don't know what's going to happen. Players are going to start getting the virus. Some team's going to need a running back. You might as well snag them if you have the space and just leave them there. It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If you got the roster room for it, then you definitely should put him on there because you don't know where he's going to go. I think that's going to end it then for our oldies. Unless you guys have anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good.
We covered it all.
That would be it there. All right. Well, that's going to move us to our final segment, and that is the weekly Mafia market. And this week we have a 12-team Superflex League trade that I made. I sent away Cooper Kupp and Jameis Winston for Terry McLaurin, the 212, which wound up being Laviska Shenault and Tyrod Taylor. So let me talk about this one real quick. Now, this is in the Dynasty Diagnostic Champions League. If none of you are familiar, make sure you follow the Dino Diagnostic with the Dynasty Diagnostic podcast. They are great guys, Aton and Stompy over there. But anyways, yeah, this was my thought process here. So Laviska Shenault is my fourth ranked wide receiver out of the rookies. So him being down at 212, I just feel like I had to make a move. I was going crazy. I was trying to trade up starting at like 207, just wasn't working. So I've already got Tua, Lamar, and Josh Allen. So I figured I can get rid of Jameis. I really like McLaurin. Got me some depth. I'm not a big fan of Tyrod, but I think he can at least get me through until Tua steps up. So I'll have a starter. So I felt pretty good about this trade, but what do you guys think about it?
I think
Being in the league as well.
Unfortunately, I think you won the damn trade. I could say a lot of words right now because a lot of swear words right now at you because I do love McLaren. I think you got the best player out of Cooper Kupp and him. The jury's still out on obviously Shenault, and who cares about Tyrod Taylor and Jameis. I definitely think that you want to trade just because of what Scary Terry, I like to call him, was able to do last year with that horrible Washington Redskins offense. Almost 1,000 yards receiving last year, and he had 7 touchdowns, 191 fantasy points. So he averaged about 13 fantasy points a game. I think that alone, you won the trade. And his age. I know Eric's a big fan of Cooper Kupp. I mean, he can talk on it, but I'm not. I mentioned before. I feel like that offense has changed, and I think Robert Woods is starting to become number 1 wide receiver there.
Yeah, don't hate on my boy Cooper Kupp over there. Yeah, I keep every time I look at this trade, I keep going back and forth about it. So I do think it was a very, I guess, fair trade. But I will say, because I do think McLaurin's the better option long term, but right now I obviously like Cooper Kupp better. I don't think Dwayne Haskins is going to be the long term option there. They could end up drafting another quarterback and starting over there. So who knows how long it'll be until McLaurin's really a top option. But like I said, long term he's a better option. I think where you're potentially going to lose it is if Jameis does end up becoming the starter next year, and who knows if he does actually become the long-term option there in New Orleans, then I think you're going to be kicking yourself in the butt about this one. But there's a just a likely chance that won't happen. So I mean, like I said, McLaurin's the better option long-term out of these wide receivers. But yeah, it's close. We'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I know that Jameis is the only piece that I didn't feel comfortable getting rid of. But I do kind of feel like this is a better move beyond 2020. And I won the championship last year. It's a 4-division, 48 team now. So there's 4 leagues of 12 teams in each of it. But yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Fun to see how it plays out.
We know that Jameis is not going to be the starter there. We all know that everyone in New Orleans loves that Taysom Hill guy. So let's not give Jameis that job next year or 2 years from now.
Yeah, I'm confident he'll be somewhere next year, if not New Orleans being a starter. But that's going to wrap up the Mafia Market for the week. That's going to wrap up the episode for the week. And does anybody else have anything else to say?
I don't. I'm actually speechless for once. I don't know. Maybe I'm just tired. We're doing this kind of late at night after our big Father's Day weekend.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm definitely tired as well. We do have some really big, exciting news to announce for next week, though, we are going to have our good friend, Dynasty Outhouse, Russ Fisher here. If you guys aren't familiar, he is part of the Trade Addicts podcast with Brian Haar. He is at Dynasty Outhouse on Twitter. Great guy. So we are extremely humbled. Very excited to have him on as our first guest. So make sure to check that out next week. And without further ado, again, happy Father's Day, and everybody be safe, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
See ya.
Mafia out.